Friday, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed a bill into law that would ban abortions once a heartbeat is detected, which can happen as early as 6 weeks. So is this a giant step backwards? Is this government's fingers in something that it shouldn't be in, or what?
The thing is that a lot of women don't even know they're pregnant in the first 6 weeks. I mean, I've seen that, where you don't even, you just feel a little something, maybe. So it's really not enough time to make a decision. I don't know what they're trying to do in Iowa. That's your sound.
I can't claim that today.
Well, I will say this law does have exceptions for rape, incest, medical emergency. And listen, nobody knows when life begins, but laying down a marker that a heartbeat, I think, makes some sense. And if you are pro-life, certainly when you can detect a heartbeat, there is life present. And so if Iowa wants to make a law to do this, they have every right to.
No,
they went through the legal channels. They passed it in Congress. The Republican governor signed it.
I know that, but we have a law of the land, which is called Roe v. Wade.
Sure.
Which is based, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that Roe v. Wade is based on privacy.
It's a woman's right to privacy and making medical decisions. But I can agree with Amanda on the point that a lot of people, you know, I believe life begins at conception. That's my faith tells me that. But if you have a heartbeat, then certainly life is present. And, you know, if people think that it's unconstitutional, which it very well may be because this is the law of the land, then let them challenge it in front of the Supreme Court.
And abortion is legal, but you have a right within the states to put restrictions on it, and that's exactly what that state is doing.
But you know how? Go ahead. Sorry. The beauty of this country is it's a law of lands and land of laws. Excuse me. And the point was that the reason we coexist is that we differ on these opinions, and I don't think everyone does agree that life begins at that point. And they also, if you're
no one knows. I mean, it is a mystery, but I'm happy to talk about weeks.
Well, there's also the idea that to be pro-life should be for the mother as well, because that is a viable life that's living right here.
Right, and there's a medical emergency exception in that.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to make a greater point that what bothers me of that is you're legislating a religious belief for the most part. And I
don't think it's
medical based if they're talking about 6 weeks and
this
fetal heartbeat.
This is look.
I don't want you
telling me when I can and can't do this. This decision is hard enough. Now, you don't have to do it. No one who does not want to have an abortion has to have one. Okay? You don't have to do it. But if I am not of your faith, if I am an atheist and I believe that this is not right for my family, it is not right for my life, that is my decision. And you and my doctor, not you, but my doctor and I, because doctors have a lot to say about when you can and when you shouldn't. And so that's a conversation between doctor and patient.
And many people do it the right way by passing a law. Didn't they do it the right way, though? In this
instance, mean Roe v. Wade?
No, in Iowa, they passed
They're
the law.
trying to get it to jump to the Supreme Court. That's the strategy of it.
The Supreme Court will review it.
You know what ticks me off?
Should be.
A lot of the same people who are in this category of whatever happened there in Iowa, they also want to legislate birth control. They don't want you to practice birth control either. If you're going to follow a religious law, that's basically...
but I don't think there's a movement to quell birth control at this point. I mean, Plan B is available over the counter now, which has cut down the rate of abortion. So why do we have to have abortion at
They're pulling money out of
extreme
Planned
limits?
Parenthood, and typically Planned Parenthood goes into low-income areas or rural areas, hello, Iowa, where people can't afford other things. So they want to take away the options of... By the way, abortions are only one small percentage of Planned Parenthood. Most of it's affordable health care and screenings. So you're pulling out these resources for so many of these women it affects, but you're also saying you can't do this, so you're leaving women with no option. And therefore, how do you say that's pro-life when there's a life right there in the middle that's not getting cared for? It's the mother.
Well, I think...
You can't, baby. We'll be right back. Line between politics and pop culture just keeps getting blurrier. First up, SNL's Cold Open was a star-studded White House sketch featuring a surprise appearance by Stormy Daniels. Take a look.
Stormy, this is Michael Cohen. Are you alone?
Yes.
And what are you wearing?
Excuse me?
Okay, Michael, I can take it from here.
Okay, but as your attorney, I highly advise against you.
Just tell me, what do you need for this to all go away?
A resignation?
Yeah, right.
I know you don't believe in climate change, but a storm's a-coming, baby.
So the new guy's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, who we'll be talking about a little later on, claims that this appearance proves she's just in this for fame, money, and glory. This could hurt her credibility, he says. Do you
Unlike
agree?
him, he's all over the place.
I thought the jokes were hilarious, but being that the biggest counterpunch to her is that she's looking for fame, and she has said in every interview, no, I just want to clear up my story. I found, for me, if I were advising her, I would have said, don't do this. Because, again, it was hysterical.
Yeah.
But I think it goes against, it already feeds into what everyone else said.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of her industry, but man, I'm a fan of the way that she goes toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. No one that is going to take on Trump should cede the media space to him. Donald Trump will call anybody that stands in his way a liar, publicity seeker, shred their credibility. And what she does, she shows the advice I give in my book, is that you have to own your narrative. You have to know who you are and be able to be yourself in the spotlight. Because isn't it worth it? Like, to take on Donald Trump, he's going to do that to everybody.
My experience with her is that it's exactly what she does.
Yes,
When she came on here, she was very credible.
Oh, I agree.
I thought.
too.
And she was pretty straightforward and honest lady, and so she's having a little fun. I don't think it hurts her at all.
It makes it tougher to
her
defend her,
relatable.
though, because when you have met her, she seemed very credible to me.
Yeah.
It's hard when you try to tell someone that when they're like, and there she was on SNL. It just makes it a little difficult.
Everybody appears on SNL. Donald Trump himself appeared on
But those are already
SNL in a
public
chicken
figures.
suit.
Those are,
I think we have the picture, right? I mean, he was in a chicken suit with everyone else.
they already have fame, though, when they go on there, typically.
But it was during the campaign.
But he was already famous.
Well, listen, she's doing a better job taking on Donald Trump, I think, than anybody in the Democratic Party. I hand it to her, and I hand it to Michael Avenatti. They should take some lessons.
And I will say this to you, Rudy. Before you knock Stormy for going on SNL, let's remind you of this when you were hosting back in '97. Yeah, you know what?
The blonde is Rudy.
SNL.
I think it's Gray.
The white-haired person.
The white-haired person.
I think, you know what? Sometimes even the most credible people need a break. And so maybe this was just her way of having a little fun at his expense. And, you know, it's all right. It didn't bother me.
Camped at the U.S.-Mexico border. The members have no right to enter the United States legally, but that has not stopped the press from openly encouraging them to do it anyway. Over at NBC, talking heads suggested that the Statue of Liberty, the poem at the bottom, somehow, with no vote being taken, has become federal law and commands us to let them in, no questions asked. Watch.
A very public test of American resolve over immigration policy, as well as the limits of American compassion.
These are the faces of the desperate, locked out on the doorstep of the United States, waiting.
The president said, have you seen this caravan? Have you seen the caravan? I ask you, Mr. President, have you?
We
what do you
continue
think
this discussion.
the Statue of Liberty would say if you met them?
Come on in. Let me help you out.
It's like, how do people that dumb get TV jobs? So I guess they're just passing them out. Over at CNN, meanwhile, United Shades of America host Camo Bell has gone even farther than that. He says that all borders everywhere are immoral.
This idea of borders and walls is ridiculous. We're too good for this. The point is, walls suck. This $3 billion manifestation of irrational fear stoked by politicians running for elected office is made of concrete barriers, steel beams, double-layered fencing, and barriers fit for the beaches of Normandy. Welcome to America's Got Talent, but it's wasting it on building this wall.
There's a guy. Want to ask, do you lock your door? You got a password on your email? Why, it's just a manifestation of fear, I guess. Well, CNN and NBC operate out of America. They cover American news. Americans work there, but they are not interested in the interests of Americans, obviously. Ethan Behrman is a California radio host, and he joins us tonight. So, Ethan, I assume, like every good progressive, you're for letting the members of the caravan in. And I just want to be clear, I'm not against the members. I would want to come here, too, if I lived in Honduras. I understand completely. But it raises the question, since they're not the only people who want to come here, where do you draw the line? What's the limit for people seeking a better life coming to this country?
Well, we have great capacity to accept people into our country, and it follows the Judeo-Christian ethic and morals that we would help those who are less fortunate. Plus, we also signed the 1951 UN Convention on Refugees, which actually sets forth the three aspects of how we determine who to let in under asylum and refugee status. And that's what these people are coming here for is they're fleeing the violence. They're fleeing governments that are not able to protect them from violent gangs. And they're coming here to get a better life. And by the way, we have...
And in some cases, joining violent gangs that our government refuses to protect us from. So it is kind of the circle of life in some ways. But let me just ask you more precisely about what the limit is. So there are 1.2 billion people in Africa. Probably 1 billion fall into the categories you just described. How many have a right to come here? What is our capacity?
Well, up until now, I mean, we've been able to absorb roughly 1 million people legally immigrating into the United States every year.
Right.
We know that under President Obama, it was over 100,000 refugees every year that we were able to allow in as well. So we can absorb. I mean, by the way, this caravan.
Wait, hold on. Before you make generalizations, I want to get specific. So you're right with those numbers. Those are basically the numbers. And then various people come in under other programs. So it's maybe 1.5 million a year legally. We've done this for a long time. But the left is saying that's way too restrictive. So what's the number? I mean, again, let's stipulate 1 billion people want to move here next week, probably all to San Diego. How many should we let in under the Judeo-Christian ethic that you're citing?
Well, and this is also part of the Judeo-Christian ethic would be to help their governments become better functioning, and this is where foreign aid comes into play.
Let's not dodge the question. We spend, okay, come on. There's no evidence that our foreign aid has ever made any government better. I wish it were true, but it's not. Life expectancy in a lot of Africa is lower than it was in 1965 when the colonial powers left. So it doesn't necessarily work that way, as you know. But what's the number? Like, how many? Because this is going to keep happening. With every wave, it incites more waves. And when can we say enough? When are we allowed to say that's too many?
Well, first things first, I mean, I will answer your question as well, which I think is that 1.5 million number. But at the same time, the Trump administration has dramatically cut back on the number of legal immigration. That is, Syrian refugees, we let 11 in so far this year, as opposed to 15,000. 750,000 people have died in Syria.
That's one category.
The most clear example of helping refugees.
Okay.
What's that?
But these are on the margins. Again, is there a number, or does talking about it scare the crap out of the country and reveal your real agenda, which is to totally overwhelm and change the country? Because that really is what it's about, as you know. I mean, you don't want to be honest about what the limit is? Is it just kind of like as long as our compassion lasts? Honest. It's a sincere question.
I actually just answered. I mean, I think that 1.5 million number is
so we just keep it there.
Fair.
1.5. That's.
I think that.
So that'll continue. That'll make the country totally unrecognizable in 30 years, but not in 5 years. So that's enough. Is 1.5 million. I mean, I don't think that's what the left is arguing for, because they're saying that we can't turn anyone down.
The country is, but Tucker, the country is unrecognizable from what it was in 1900, from 1800.
It's true.
You're right. We're all strangers in a strange land, and we have to remember that we are a country of immigrants, of people who were refugees and asylum seekers.
No, we're not. We're actually that's where you're wrong. We're a country of Americans. We're a country of Americans. We're not a country of immigrants, not of foreign nationals pledging allegiance to multiple countries simultaneously. We're a country of Americans who are many different colors, many different religions, but we're Americans. And when you stop acknowledging that, that's when things fall apart into this mosaic of tribal warfare, as you know. So why does no one ever say that?
Because, I mean, let's be honest. So Carl said, I don't know if that's Norwegian or German, but remember, we didn't allow Germans to teach German to their kids. And that was a Supreme Court case that had to be settled in the early 20th century, because we have this issue where we don't like people who are different from us
racist.
At the time.
Okay.
And then
so
they become part
this
of our
is our
country,
punishment for our racism. Okay. I love it, because the longer these conversations go on, the more you get to the beating heart of the truth, which is this is punishment. That's really what this is. As you know. So good.
Come on. All the studies have shown the 4 Ds of the jobs that refugees and asylum seekers take actually benefit the economy within 5 years upon arrival. All of the studies have shown a positive economic impact in the regions.
I just want to say, unfortunately, we're out of time, but let me just say, as somebody who does this for a living, that's totally untrue. Text me those studies and we'll talk about it.